Hey everybody, welcome back to Raw Food Muscle, and today I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a sensitive subject because some people have been, coming to me and asking me some questions in regards to some of the things that they're feeling as they go through this raw transition. Okay, and one thing I can tell you for sure is that if you're coming from like eating meats and things like that straight into raw foods, you're going to get a serious change in the way you feel. Okay, and some of those changes might be emotional. Okay, because you have to remember that our bodies are ridding ourselves of the toxicity in our body, and some of that toxicity can come from emotions. And before I was raw, I was already heavy into meditation, into deep breathing, and for me that was almost like a beginning of my transition into how to balance my body. For example, I had a lot of bursitis in both shoulders years and years ago. This is like, I don't know, 15 years ago, and it created a lot of pain in those shoulders. Okay, and at the time my doctors were like, well, you need to get surgery done, we need to open you up and shave down the bone and all that kind of stuff. And this was on both shoulders, so the pain was so intense I couldn't even drive with my hands up like that. So I wanted to go a different route, so I looked into acupuncture, which helped a big difference, and then getting into the deep breathing, because what happens is the emotions trigger anxieties within our body. We don't even realize what's happening when we're holding on to certain emotions, and some of that can come from anger, some of that can come from a lot of sadness, and I'm only speaking from my own experience. Okay, so what I mean is that there was a time when I was feeling so much emotion because growing up as a young child, I felt a lot of abandonment issues from my parents, and I'm not going to get into all that, but for me everything happens for a reason, and I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through all those different experiences. But when I was going through that, you're going through the why, which can kind of drive you crazy, but the emotions is there, and we're taught as young children to suppress our emotions, especially men. Growing up as a child, when my dad used to beat me and whip me, he used to tell you don't cry during the process. So that trained me to keep that emotion suppressed. And I didn't realize this until I got way into my teens, into my early 20s, that how serious I was keeping that suppression down. So when it started to really surface through my relaxation and everything, just started to almost like I was feeling it stuck in my throat, and the emotion just came to a point where it was just outpouring, and I just had to let it out. And I know a lot of guys we're kind of stuck in our whole macho image, and I can understand that, but there's nothing wrong with letting your emotions out. It's extremely healing, it's extremely powerful to let those emotions out. Find a quiet spot. I'm big into being out in nature. I am a true hardcore tree hugger. Me and trees are like one. Okay, I love being in nature. I love being with trees, and I have a strong connection with trees. But find a quiet spot. Find a place where you can let that emotion out, relax, listen to your breathing, and just be with nature. Sometimes it helps a whole lot. But sometimes when you have to just kind of deal with those emotions, let it go through you, let it come out, okay, because it's part of the healing process, it's part of the cleansing process. So some of you who have been feeling some of these things, take some time for yourself, okay? If you're not experiencing this, you can disregard this message. I understand. I'm not trying to I'm just trying to get out some information because people have been coming to me asking me what's going on with them. So if you don't take some time for yourself, when you're running around, you're doing your work, you're doing all this kind of stuff, and you're not dealing with that stuff, Because that's what happened to me. I was running around at work, and I wasn't really dealing with it. I was like, you know what, nah, I ain't like that, and, it's that psyche that teaches you that, oh, crying is for sissy boys and all that kind of stuff, and that's just not right. We are human. We are humans with emotions, and you have to let that stuff out. I mean, it's just not healthy to keep that stuff bottled in, because it's going to cause illnesses. It can cause headaches, migraines, cancer. It can cause all kinds of things. So I just really wanted to, get this information out to you guys. If you're feeling any of these kinds of symptoms, and you're feeling that emotion is just overboiling, you just gotta take some time to let it out. Let that emotion come out. And just, if you need to cry, bawl out. It's so powerful. When I picked a spot by the river, and I think that was kind of poetic in a way, because I cried so much during that time. And at the age of 15, 16, when I was on my own, my mother went, she went back to her country. My father was still in the city. I didn't want to go back to the city because I felt like it was just going to put me in a negative spot, because I went through so much being a child in the city. I didn't like what was going on. I didn't like all the fighting. I felt out of place. But before I get too much into that, it's just one of those things that you have to understand that throughout our whole lives we're suppressing all of those feelings, and so it's sometimes that stuff starts to come up to like a dam about to burst. And when you're going through the raw food stuff, it cleanses all that stuff out. The emotions is part of the process. So anyway, I hope this is a little bit informative to you guys. And if you're having any really more deeper type of feelings, just give me a message, and I'll talk to you on a more personal level. So I just kind of wanted to give this kind of a general thing. So it's okay to let those emotions out. All you fellas out there, it's just part of who we are. We are emotional beings, okay? So don't sweat it, all right? Don't worry about, your friends or whatever they might think of you, Just be who you are, okay? And let that stuff cleanse out. Let that stuff come out and heal your whole entire body, okay? All right, so I'll see you guys next time, and I hope this is helpful. And like I said, if anybody has any other questions, just shoot me a message, and I'll get back to you, okay? So I'll see you all next time on Raw Food Muscle.